There's a few things I want to talk about today, and I'm very grateful to be able to share those with you. First of all, we human beings are amazing, are we not? I mean, think about it. Very exceptional animals. Compared to all of the other animals, we've created this intricate spoken language, so I can make these noises with my mouth, and you can hear them with your ears, and they replicate some about my whole experience inside of you. You're like making meanings out of these sounds and having feelings about these sounds. Language, it's incredible. If we take it for granted most of the time, but the truth is, it's amazing. And beyond that, we then started developing all of these crazy technologies. So now we are talking and listening to each other all over the globe. Oh my God, how is that even possible? You know, the thousands and millions of people working and thinking and stuff. We've created these miracles that we just kind of take for granted as part of our daily life. We humans can do some amazing shit, and we're doing it. At the same time that we humans have this incredible capacity for creation to a degree that's far beyond any of the other species that we know of, we humans have an incredible capacity for suffering and for creating suffering. We've got this incredible power of technology that we've created. We're harnessing it without much love or wisdom, and we're using it to what? You know, destroy most of the other species on the planet, make incredibly destructive new ways of killing each other. You know, it's just as amazing how screwed up we are as it is how powerful we are. And when we really let that sink in, it breaks my heart to just kind of like, oh, I mean, just even like the man who's running my country right now. Oh God, you know, and what we do to each other all the time. And then just even on like the little daily level where with the people that we love, we get bogged down in crunchy little conflicts and miss each other all the time. Or the way that we will, you know, create suffering for ourselves about piddly stuff, you know. So this problem of how are humans going to replace, how are we going to replace our love of power with the power of real love? Because even more amazing than our capacity for creating all of these technological powers is the power of our love if we can really develop it and harness it. And we've only, you know, begun to scratch the surface of that. And there were some other cultures that were actually very committed to that, you know, the ancient Tibet or something like that. Their high technology was inner work and spiritual practice. That was like their space program. and they learned some stuff, you know. But we moderns, even though we've created all these amazing powers, tend to feel pretty disconnected, pretty, lots of people are at least low level depressed or anxious or at least kind of empty. So there's this way that even though we are super networked now, we have this incredible communication technology. Most people, in my experience, feel kind of lonely, kind of disconnected. And I know that's all true for me. And so I have been on this lifelong um, spiritual journey myself, this path of transformation myself. And for me, the next logical extension of that path of finding peace and love in my own life was to start spreading the gospel, as it were. So I go around and I get to teach workshops with all you amazing people, and I've done it on 5 continents in a whole lot of countries now, and it's amazing. I can't imagine a more rewarding way of living my life, and it's so rewarding because I see that ache out there amongst all of us, and I get to try to help address it. I get to give people some of the tools and practices and insights that have been transformational for me, and that I get to watch affect other people. And I love that. I love that. And I so appreciate all of you whom I have met in that context of the workshops that we have done together. And they're beautiful. They're some of the most moving, rewarding experiences that I have ever had. And yet, there is kind of a problem still in what I do, and that is, I come into this place, we pull together this temporary group of people, we have this deep experience together, which is usually unlike the experiences that any of us have anywhere else, and then it ends. We're kind of, people are often really sad at the end of a workshop. They're like, oh, now back to my normal life. And people are sad because they've tasted this different way of being together, and now it's like back to normal reality, which is not the norm that I want to live in. So even though I love doing the work, I don't love just kind of scratching the surface in that way and creating a temporary workshop high and then sending people back to their untransformed lives. And I've done a lot of that, and it's great to plant those seeds, but I want something more. And I think people want something more. I think what really feeds people, what they really, really want, is both deep connection, and not connection that only lasts for a weekend or even 8 days, but deep connection as a way of life, and a sense of purpose, a sense of, this is what my life is committed to. This is what I get up for in the morning. This is what, for me, spreading this work is a purpose. For me, spreading this work is like my mission, it gives my life a meaning and a momentum and a passion that I am so committed to. And I think everybody wants that. I think, a lot of people are starving for a sense of purpose and a sense of community. So that's what I want to create. I want to create more and more ongoing, purposeful community that is transformational, that people are really experience themselves as a part of ongoingly. And and contributing to, because we all want, part of a purposeful life is to know that we can contribute something, that we're receiving all kinds of goodness, and that we are also giving goodness. Because even though it's often been said, well, everybody just wants to be loved. You know, when you get down to it, everybody just wants to be loved. But I don't actually think that's quite true. I think we do, but really everybody wants to be love. Everyone wants to become love. Because when you're just a consumer of love, after a while, you start feeling out of integrity. You feel, it's kind of like, when you watch baby humans growing up, when they reach the age of around 2, they start getting pissed off about having other people do everything for them. There's this little girl that I was hanging out over the Thanksgiving weekend over here. And whenever you would start to do too much for her, she would say, no, Sienna, do it. Sienna, that was her name, Sienna. Sienna, do it. Because she wants to feel her own independence, her own capacity to do things for herself. But I say all of us, as we grow up emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, we want to start being a contribution to others. At least that's what I hope happens. I think that when the workshop culture just becomes all about me, how am I doing? How am I feeling? La, la, la. At some point, that is just kind of a narcissistic loop. And we really want to find is a way to be of service, to be healed enough ourselves and out of the kind of our personal suffering enough ourselves in order to be able to really be a contribution. And it just feels good to be a contribution. It's not something you're doing in order to, be virtuous. It just feels good, Like you make a really good meal and you dish for people and they're all just like, oh man, this is so good. It's just rewarding, right? For me, if I play a song and people are crying or moved by my song, it just feels good. When I teach workshops and people are opened up, it feels good. So I wish for all of you deep transformational community and this sense of shared purpose, shared passion and commitment and contribution. So, given that that's what I wish for all of you, that's the direction in which I am taking the work. That will take several forms. For one, we now have 2 amazing centers. I can't believe it. It's just like, had a vision. Well, this last summer, I was touring Europe and the Middle East again. We went to England, Scotland, Italy, Germany, Lithuania, Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, and then back to San Diego, where Manal is from, and where I had the vision while we were traveling. Oh, maybe we should have a center because, background, I have some land in Hawaii that I'm also want to develop as an eco village. But right now, that's raw land. It's just jungle. So while we were on this tour, I had the vision of, well, maybe we, as an intermediate step, we set up a center in San Diego. It's warm, it's beautiful. That's where Manal's from and her people live. And of course, maybe we continue to have a foothold in Oakland at the center that I've been living here for many years now that I call the Church of Soul. So long story short, we went to San Diego. We saw all these properties. One totally spoke to us. We were in escrow on that property when we got back up here to Oakland. And my landlady here in Oakland, who had for years refused to even think about selling this place, said, oh, you know what? I want to sell this place now. And I was like, uh-oh, I was planning on continuing to work here while also having the center in San Diego. This is what I'm thinking to myself. And I said to her, oh, really? How soon do you want to sell it? And she said, oh, a month or two. And I was like, oh my God. So long story short, we were just closing. We were hurrying to close on the property in San Diego so we could be in time to put down an offer on this place in Oakland. And as it turns out now, we have both. Miracles never cease. So we've got a city center in Oakland, which is amazing. There's a huge 1,000 square foot meeting room downstairs that I've outfitted with a PA system and a digital movie theater. And upstairs, there's bedrooms, each of which have their own bathroom. So that's the urban center. And we have this place in San Diego. It's like 2.5 acres. And I think we're going to get the immediately adjacent 3 acres that's right next door to it. So that'd be over 5 acres. And it's up on top of a desert hill, and you can see all the way out to the ocean, and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. And that will be like the country retreat center, because frankly, Tabor's getting tired of the big city. It's been wonderful to be in the belly of the beast and creating lots of connections and stuff, but I'm a country boy or a nature boy at heart, and so I'm looking forward to getting out amongst the plants and the animals and away from as many of the people, and then start attracting the kind of community that we want to build. So first prong of this building purposeful community that I'm talking about is building local community around these 2 centers, the Bay Area and San Diego, which are both amazing places. So, it's a cool place to be building local community in California. But I am also connected, as we are right now in this moment, with people all over the globe who are all hungry for this kind of transformation. So the next prong is we support community builders in local areas. Like at this point, I've come back to Berlin to teach a lot. And I know a lot of people in Berlin, and a lot of people in Berlin were eating it up with a spoon. So we could create a local ongoing community in Berlin. And I've taught a lot in Baltimore, and we could have it there. And, we can create local nodes of ongoing community all over, and keep equipping local community builders in each of those areas to hold that community together, to help give that community the sense of shared practice and purpose and vision that I was talking about. So train up local community builders to facilitate and support local ongoing communities. That's the second prong. The third prong is the miracle of the web, the miracle of the internet. So we network together all of these different community centers. We connect them. We have a worldwide global community online where we're all staying in touch with each other. We're all trading best practices with each other. We're all cross-fertilizing each other. And there's an informal exchange program between all of those different communities. People can travel from this one which is their home base, to another one where they already know people, or whether the vision is shared. And as it turns out, it's kind of hilarious. I have these close friends, Stephen and Manal. Stephen founded this amazing worldwide thing called the Shift Network that does virtual courses all over the globe, hundreds of thousands of people. And I used to live with him and his wife, and I was part of their wedding party. And did couples work for them and stuff like that. And right after we bought the center in San Diego, I reached out to him and said, hey, we just got this country property for retreat center, and we're going to blah, blah, blah. And he said, oh, we just got this country property for retreat center up by Nevada City. And then shortly after that, Manal was in contact with her ex-husband. He said, oh, I just got this property for country retreat center and stuff. So it's happening. People, it's like, it's time. The impulse is afoot. And of course, all of those people are part of our network now. All of those people want to cross-fertilize and do things at our place, and we do things at their place. So it's kind of like, rather, you could call me a cynic, but rather than trying to reform the mainstream culture and mainstream politics and stuff like that, which I frankly think is probably kind of hopeless, I want to just create an alternative to it, a whole other culture that exists in parallel and that keeps siphoning cool, powerful, creative people off the mainstream culture, nourishing them, transforming them, and then sending them back to do missionary work. But we need to have this alternative culture, this ongoing purposeful community that can nourish us and that we can be a part of, so that the mainstream culture doesn't just wear us down, you know. And creating ongoing intentional community is a big deal. It's not easily done, frankly. It's like, I've seen a lot of attempts at intentional community, frankly, and a lot of them collapse under their own weight after a while. Why? Because of a couple of things. One, we've outgrown what I call small town community. You know, we used to have a sense of community, we humans. We used to have a lot more sense of community than we have now. But a lot of that community tended to be based around conformity. Okay, these are the rules. This is how everybody's supposed to behave. You got to toe the line, be a good little Christian or Muslim or whatever. And if you step out of line, everybody else will gossip about you or shame you or whatever. And that kind of community is not going to feed us anymore. We can't go back to small town community, to conformist community. And at the same time, when you get together a bunch of free spirits who don't want to be conformed by small town mindset, what do? Conflict emerges, and people start, a chaos emerges of people in conflict. And the old tools that we have for working with conflict break down. They're not good, because the way that most people have learned to do conflict is about control. Either I get you to admit that I'm right and you're wrong and get you to do what I want you to do, or I sell myself down the river and say, okay, yeah, I'll go along with what you want, and resentment builds. And so eventually these communities become dysfunctional and don't have a form of what I call creative conflict. They don't know how to use conflict in a way that's transformational. But part of what I'm hoping we can bring, part of what I'm passionate about, is these new kinds of intentional communities where those kinds of difficulties or conflicts that come up between us in the course of living together are not seen as an inconvenience. They're not seen as a problem. They're seen as grist for the mill. They're seen as the raw materials of the new culture that we are creating together. They're seen as the shit that we're going to compost to grow our beautiful flowers with. And most of you have had some experience of that. Hopefully you know that you have a sense that that is possible, that it's possible for us to use potential conflict creatively. And then when we get good at doing that, we get good at cooperating, we get good at sharing, of having a shared sense of passion and purpose. So I want to create that, again, on both a local and a global scale. We've got a couple centers here in California. If you want to come be involved in our centers, that's amazing. And I want to support other people in creating centers locally, wherever they are, if they're committed to staying there. And we create a global virtual community that links us all together and that keeps us in communication with each other, and that facilitates this cross-fertilization and visiting each other and communicating with each other all the time. Yeah, it's big. It's a big vision. It's a big vision that sort of got hold of me. And rather than me thinking, here, let me just think what I want to do with my life. No, it's more like the vision's gotten me by the collar and saying, here, do this, And frankly, it scares me a little bit because I'm a very mellow, laid back guy. Nobody will accuse me of being type A personality, except maybe in the realm of personal transformation. And yet I know the only way and that this kind of vision can come to pass, and the way that it really, really could come to pass, is actually contained within the vision itself. That is community. So we need to create a team, an inner core of the community, which is the community which builds community, which is the core of the community, which is committed to building a movement in this way. So the community is going to have kind of concentric circles. At the outer fringes will be people who are touched in whatever way they are in the course of their daily life, which isn't that much different than it was before. And then hopefully they start getting more committed and moving inwards and getting more interdependent and interconnected with each other. But the core will be the people who are actually creating it, making it happen. So this is the purpose of this call. I'm putting out the call to those of you who may feel so inspired by this kind of vision. You may share my passion with this, about this kind of vision, so much that you want to not only be a consumer of it, but a co-creator of it. Let me see just a second here. I've got chats coming up. Dancers, dreamers, and nomads. Yes. Nice. A question about how to manage immigration to the U.S. Well, funny you should mention that. Just the other day, I was watching the documentary about Osho, or Sri Rajneesh, as he was called back in the day. And I lived in Oregon when Osho was creating this massive community out in Eastern Oregon and stuff. And they had quite a systematized way of bringing people over from Europe and then marrying them off and keeping them here. So, Leonid, if you want to come over, we'll find you a wife, and then you can stay indefinitely. I'm seeing something else. Okay, yeah. Manal's suggesting maybe I open up to a few more questions. Going to say a little bit more about how, in a minute, about how you can get involved. But before I do, if there's any questions that have come up for you in the course of my impassioned soliloquy, I'm happy to hear those.
This is Jesper. I'm very excited about this, and I look forward to what you specifically have.
Jesper is talking, but I don't hear him.
Oh, you can't hear him, Tabor? I can. Maybe, Tabor, turn that speaker next to you on.
I don't hear you either, Manal.
Okay. Hang on, guys. Jesper, hang on just 1 second. Let me run over to Tabor.
Uh-oh. Where'd she go? Well, maybe I won't listen to you. You can chat things in the chat box. Here comes Manal, technical wizard. Jesper, are you unmuted?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Ah, wunderbar. We have the.
Yeah. So my questions are specifically what kind of participation do you have in mind for Oakland and San Diego?
Right.
Started. I'm ready. I'm ready to do something.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes. Well, then your questions lead me right to where I was going already. So basically, we will work with whoever we got. Everyone who wants to get involved and is really has time, has energy, has some commitment for that, we will find a way to get you involved. There's a lot of potential roles that need to be filled in one way or another, and that's everything from help with marketing, getting stuff out on Facebook and social media. That has to do with setting up speaking gigs that I will be doing anywhere and everywhere that I can in order to get the word out, spread the gospel. It has to do with setting up online systems, that what they call funnels online, that attract people in, that they click on this, they follow that, and it leads them to an opportunity to get involved. Manal, do you have a few? You have that list of roles handy that you want to reel off a few more of those?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can actually post a list in the chat, but we've been starting to think about some of the things Tabor mentioned around getting the word out, engaging the existing community. I imagine that a lot of folks on the call want to host workshops where they are. I think people are here from literally all over the world. So we're thinking on this call to not get too detailed, to give folks a chance to see, are you feeling inspired? Does this sound like something you want to know more about? And then I think what I would like is for folks to send me a note and say, hey, I actually do have some time and I want to get engaged. And then we'll kind of see who shows up, and from there put together some more deliberate structures. But I can also rattle off some of the other things. I just need 1 second to pull that up, Tibbs.
When you write Manal, I would suggest that you include two main things. One is what are the skills that you think you have? And that can be anything basic, like I know my way around Facebook, or
Or around Zoom, which I could have used some help with today.
or you're a Zoom wizard, whatever. Yes. Any kind of skills that you think you have that could be put to use, and what you're passionate about. So, we both want whatever kind of grunt help people are willing to give, because we all got to pitch in and make stuff happen just by doing what needs to be done. And eventually, I also want to find the perfect place to plug people who, for their passion. Find the perfect place to plug people's passion. Nice. So, and frankly, to begin with, this is mostly volunteer. If there's somebody who has a really important skill set and really needs to get paid for what they're doing, maybe we can come up with some funds for some people. But initially, this is a volunteer effort. We're building the movement, and eventually, the movement will have funds. We will have funds to work with, and we can start paying key people to do key things and stuff like that. But obviously, it's first and foremost a labor of love, because we want, we're saving the world, we're building a movement, we want to get people involved because they're passionate about it, not because it's like, I've got my eye on the clock or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, talk to us about all the skills you have, all the things you could do, would be willing to do, and what your passions are, what you'd most like to see yourself doing, what you have a fire in the belly for. And then also your level of commitment. Can you be available for 2 hours a week, or 5 hours a week, or you want to move to San Diego or Oakland and live with us and do an internship? What is your level of desire and potential commitment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have all kinds of information I can share with folks. I don't know that I want to get into it right now, because we have over 40 people on the phone or on the call. But email me with those things. I just put my email in the chat, and then we'll do kind of individual follow-up and see what comes up. And Jesper, to get back to your original question a little, structure-wise, we do have a small core team of people that meets weekly on Zoom, and we basically coordinate and do work together that way. I imagine that if 20 of you say we really want to get involved, we need some sort of new structure. So we're kind of thinking through that as we go, based on who's interested and what.
And that's fine. We may subdivide into subcommittees that are focused on different aspects, like outreach or workshop delivery or online workshop development. And just so you know, that's all part of the vision too. Online courses as part of the online community, local workshops in different communities that help build those local communities, longer retreats in places like this amazing retreat center we've been developing in San Diego, or that I have done in key places in Europe. So, workshops, online courses, recordings, books are in the works. I'm going to be, once we move to San Diego, I'm going to be having a regular writing practice. And I think I'm going to start Facebook Living or Zooming like this every week to help build the community. So I hope to see many of you online in a more regular way, and that can help us stay connected to each other. And as I said, I plan to be doing a lot more speaking as a form of outreach, going to different churches, communities. There's a church in LA that's this hip gospel spiritual church run by this guy named Michael Bernard Beckwith, and I went there to speak and to perform, and we had thousands of people on their feet for a standing ovation. So that was, a total high, and the people are hungry. The people are ready. So the time is now.
Yeah, I noticed that Jeffrey had a question, but David sent me a really good recommendation, which is to create a quick Google form. So I'll create these questions that Tabor mentioned. What are your superpowers? What are you most passionate about? And I'll email it to everyone on the call, and that way you can just fill that out, and we can follow up from there. So be on the lookout for that within the next, I would say, 48 hours or so.
Yes, somebody asked about photos of the retreat center. We will get together nice photos of the retreat center. There were some online as part of the real estate listing, but they didn't do it justice. One was like a large boulder with a lizard on it. Okay, well that helps me know that I'm going to buy this property. But it's really cool. It's on top of there's east of Escondido, in this area called Hidden Meadows. There's these high desert hills. It's inland from the ocean a bit. It's like 30-minute drive to the beach. But it's kind of like you have the Oakland and Berkeley hills inland a bit from the bay here. There's these deserty Chaparral hills east of Escondido, and we're on top of one of the highest ones in our area, so we're at about 1,600 feet, and you can see on a clear day you can see all the way out to the ocean, and the house has got these like it's like almost circular room of windows from like floor to ceiling. So when you're in that room, it's like this, amazing view. It's pretty stunning. It was built in the 70s, so we're going to do a little remodel here and there to just kind of update it and stuff. But it's got that, kind of expansive vibe. I love it. And then outside, there's all this stonework where they've incorporated these huge boulders, rock work and little paths going amongst the boulders. And we plan to build a swimming pool out there, and housing, little tiny houses and stuff sprinkled around the property for all the people who want to come. So yeah, if you know that you want to live or at least do an internship for a while in Oakland or San Diego, that's a possibility too. And
hey Tabor.
Yep.
Can you hear me? Jeff has a really good question, which it might be the last one, and then we can, well, maybe open it up to one more, but then we should think about going. But Jeff's question is, could you say more about who quote unquote we is, and how you would define the nature and guiding philosophy values of the group? And then he says, there are many existing groups who seem to share similar values and more experience. Are you considering collaborating with them? Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I think it's a really good question.
Sure. It sounds like somebody who probably hasn't done any of my workshops and retreats, or then you would have more of a sense of the guiding philosophies and stuff. But I will say a little bit about that. First of all, we is a small, like Manal, who was just talking to you, and I, and our friend John Rosania, and our other friend Josh Brockman, and occasional other collaborators have been a small core team that have been doing stuff together for a couple years, and we together are much more powerful than I ever was by myself. So that's already been a blessing about the kind of synergy, the effect of synergy that getting the right people together creates. So that's been awesome. And as Manal said, we meet once a week on video calls and collaborate on these projects. But it's time to expand. It's time to create a larger team, and how big that will get, how quickly, I don't know. But I'm just putting out the call and saying, hey, who else wants to play? Who else wants to help build this movement? You know, because it just feels like its time has come. And ironically, to be honest, it's part of my own path and purpose to do so. I'm a recovering hermit. You know, I've spent a lot of time. I used to live in a Zen center and do silent meditation retreats for a week at a time and stuff. So I have a very kind of introverted nature, but I've always been called to this creation of transformational community. So it's kind of spooky for me to stick my neck out in this way and say, hey, everybody, want to come? It's kind of like inviting people to the party and hoping that they actually show up. But I can't afford to not do so. I can't afford to just have my own quiet little life by myself anymore. It's time for this kind of community. As for other communities, I've been involved in a lot of them. If you don't know, because you haven't been to workshops, I'm part of the worldwide radical honesty community, and that's one of my connections. And I've been involved with or even done facilitation for lots of other intentional communities. Because as I said, a lot of intentional communities have trouble with deep communication. And frankly, that's the reason why I feel called to start another one, is because I haven't been inspired enough about the way that a lot of other intentional communities deal with deep communication, what I call creative conflict, talking through things. So I feel like you don't know my background, I guess, but I've been teaching workshops for like 30 years. And my passion that whole time has been, how do we turn conversation into meditation? Or how do we create all of the promise and perils and pitfalls of intimacy and closeness as a transformational path? As I said, I used to live in a Zen center. I did a lot of hardcore Buddhist practice. And in that context, I would notice that once silence ended and people started talking, they were just kind of chattering. They were just kind of like babbling. And I was like, this is so sad. Can't we, bring meditation to our conversation? And then I went and trained as a psychotherapist and did all the touchy-feely workshops and all kind of community, blah, blah, blah. And in a lot of those, I saw a different blind spot, which was that people would get kind of bogged down in the content of their own stories and drama. And this uncreative way of communicating and of dealing with conflict would emerge. And again, I was kind of like, this is not right. There must be a way of turning our conversation into a meditation. And so that's been my passion for the last 25, 30 years, has been developing and teaching these ways of communicating that are in and of themselves transformational, where it's not like we have conversations about spiritual practice, or we don't have conversations about changing the world. We have conversations that are spiritual practice. And I can't really do that justice in this call. But those of you who have been to workshops and retreats with me have more of a sense of what I mean by that. And any of you who haven't been, I am happy to communicate more with you about that. I do sessions with people, or we're creating the 2019 schedule of workshops, and get on the mailing list if you're not already, and we will be putting that out to you. It's a whole different paradigm about how to harness communication in a transformational way.
Hey Tabor, we
Yes.
have about a minute left. And so I wanted to just let everyone know that this call's recorded. I will share it with all of you in case you have to step out. I know a few people had a hard stop at 12. And be on the lookout for that email from me. And I know this is kind of a lot of information at you. It was kind of the most efficient way to get to 50 people at once. And we had 50 people on the call between the hours. So
Awesome.
if you're interested, reach out to me. I sent my number, my email, and my number in the chat. And of course, you can reach out to Tabor. But this is only the beginning, and there will be more to come. But let us know if you want to be involved in the more to come.
And I'm just thinking more about the brother's question of why this, what's different, one of the things I'm passionate about is it being really full spectrum community. Communities tend to get kind of focused on one thing, like it's a spiritual community, and so everybody's kind of like love and light and holy. Or it's a environmental community, so everybody is, self-righteous about community. I mean, about environmentalism, or this or that. But I really want us to bring the full spectrum into a deep shared practice. So sexuality and spirituality are both equally welcome, and celebration, artistic creativity, and being of service are equally welcome. Like that saying, if you can't dance to it, it's not my revolution. I am a musician and dancer, so I want us to be able to play together and be creative together, and be ongoingly involved in each other's lives, and really create what I'm calling a transformational truth tribe with each other. And I can't say enough in 60 seconds probably to sum it up, but just feel your way in. Like take a moment now. We're at the top of the hour again. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your attention. Again, like Manal said, I kind of opened the fire hose today and just, so I'm sorry that there wasn't a lot of interaction as there usually is on these calls. And as I said, I'll be doing more of that soon on Facebook Live and on Zoom, where we get to be in dialogue. But thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for your listening. And now just let all of that sink in and notice, is there something about that that's really resonating with you? If not, that's fine. We all are called to make our own contribution in our own way. But see if there's a way in which it resonates with you, whether you feel called to join us, or to at least find out more about what we're up to and see how you might want to be involved. And if you do feel that call, you are so welcome. We are extending the invitation to all of you who self-identify as kindred spirits and of like mind. And if you think that's you, then write to us, be in communication, I'm all over Facebook. You can message me on there. You can write to Manal about those questions that we asked. What are your skills? What would you be passionate about?
Well,
And how committed are you?
yeah, and
Yeah.
you don't even need to do that. I'll send you a form to fill out if you're interested.
The one gentleman has his hand up there.
I don't see one. And we got to wrap up. So if you have a question, send us a note.
I think he was waving goodbye,
Oh,
which I'm gonna do too.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks have to hop off at noon.
got it.
So good
All
seeing you
right,
guys.
people. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Hope to talk to lots of you again soon.
Bye, everybody.
Be well. Let's create a revolution of love. Bye.
Bye, everybody.